I was a young man growing up on Long Island in a really, really small town where I would say hunting probably was the biggest pastime. And so I chose to be a dancer, which is probably insane. But luckily enough, I had really supportive parents, went to a high school for the performing arts, went on to study dance at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas. And that's where I was first introduced to Paul Taylor's style and his repertory through film, actually. I'm always hesitant when I walk into any space with a photographer because you just don't know what to expect. Is this going to be somebody that has a real sense of vision, or is it just going to be someone that says like, okay, jump around and do things, and I'm going to try to take pictures, and you realize you keep hearing the snap of the shutter like a second too late, because you've been in so many photo shoots. I found the dynamic working with Ken and Deb was really incredible. Every time I went there, they made it a space that it felt collaborative. And I think that's rare a lot of times with some photographers. They just have a specific, like, we want this. Whereas with Ken and Deb, it was let's have a conversation about what we think will work. Let's play with some ideas and develop them. And the two of them seem like they have a great rapport going back and forth. As I was speaking with Ken and Deb about the second book, the second collection of photographs they were creating based on the style of movement rather than the first, they were asking about things that I admired maybe in fashion and such, and they may have known already from the first photo shoot that I was a huge Fred Astaire fan. So I think they just got it in their head that that would be the impetus for the sort of creative impulse behind that second shoot we did. So when I arrived at their space, they had some costumes and things. They always have clothes hanging on a rack. But a friend of theirs, I believe, had a vintage tuxedo that belonged to their father, and he showed up at the apartment and brought it over, and I put it on, and it was close to a good fit, but we kind of had to pin it a bunch to make sure that it had the right look for the shoot. And I mean, I think anytime any person, a man, woman, puts on a tuxedo, it really does give you a different sense of stature and posture and movement, especially when there are tails and you have like the movement of the fabric. It really affects what you're doing. And so for me, my mind went right to those classic images of the Hollywood dancer from the films, and that sense of lightness and like ease about which they moved, especially someone like Fred Astaire, who's a huge icon for me.
I basically have been dancing my entire life. And when I first met Ken and Deborah, it was so refreshing to be surrounded by photographers who really understood dance. And I think that's really important when you're behind the camera and photographing dancers, and they do it better than anyone. So I love every single shoot I get to do with them. Valentino gowns in general are just something and extraordinary, just the intricacies and I don't know, they're just kind of unlike anything. And I think that for this, Valentino always kind of designed, he always said, I just wanted to make the woman beautiful. It was about her and the movement of the dress. And so he loves dance. And so I don't know if he always had that sort of in the back of his mind. I'm not sure, but he loves the ballet. He comes to New York City Ballet all the time. That's where we first met. And so I think for him, for his dresses to be shot through dance was also something that he was very excited about. Every photo that Ken and Deborah take is just so stunning. They find so much beauty in the movement.
Well, I became artistic director of the Graham Company in 2005, but I had the great life experience of actually dancing in the company in the 1970s and 80s when Martha Graham was still alive and directing us and creating new ballets. So it was wonderful to have that sort of inside perspective of her legacy. And now as director, I have a whole new perspective from the outside. So I feel like my life experiences have really led me to this place. It's so easy to work with Ken and Deborah. They're very simpatico. Of course, they kind of have the same brain, and they bring different things to it. They bring a fashion background, entertainment background, dance background, and all of those elements have come together to really inform. I think it's one of the reasons that their photographs are so potent, because they bring all this background to them. And they're wonderful to work with. these photographs finally give off something more than what you see in the studio when they're happening. And that's the artistry of the dancers that are posing and dancing for the photographers, and the eye and the depth and the artistry of the photographers. Martha Graham's legacy, really her revolution, was based on the idea that physical attribute had to be in a marriage with the emotional expression. It was 50-50. The physicality doesn't work unless you're informing it emotionally, and you can't just use emotion without the physical expertise. So she was insistent on that. And I think that's one of the things you see in the photographs of the Graham dancers, that they have this release of this inner life that is revealed even with their incredible athletic physicality that you see in these photos.
To be in a position where you're welcomed with open arms and really given a collaborative opportunity to build beautiful images is not that common. So the first time that I worked with them, I was about to make my debut as Odette O'Deal in Swan Lake in Australia with Alexander Hamoudi, who brought me in, and we were partnering together. And it was a really big moment as a Black woman approaching that role for the first time, and the first Black woman to do that at American Ballet Theater. You know, that's where we captured kind of stepping outside of the box, which I think that's how people, you know, that's how I feel my presence has not been fitting into this stereotypical mold or box of what's expected of us. And I think that's the beauty of art, and the power of art is being able to transform and become a character. So, you know, whether it was wearing my brown point shoes in those photos and having it follow the line, you know, through my skin color, and the beautiful clothes that we wore, like you were saying, the wedding dress and things like that. Like this was our interpretation of a swan. So that was kind of the beginning of and build of the relationship there. Doing the Degas series was so magical. Well, more so afterwards, looking at it, I could not believe how stunning they turned out. And it's just kind of, I mean, like a Degas piece, they're timeless, these photos. You know, every one person is a stepping stone for more opportunity. And so that's how I look at myself. And it's so cool to be able to be the first to do things, you know, but it wouldn't be possible without the path that's been laid for me to be able to get to this place. So I never see it as me being the first or that person that's in those Degas paintings. It's like this long, incredible history of people who have put in the work and who have not received, you know, the accolades and opportunities that I have.
So I've been a ballet dancer professionally for 12 years. I came to New York when I was 14 to dance at the School of American Ballet. Through exposing myself to different photo shoots and getting out there in front of the camera and feeling what it felt like to hold certain postures. And it's, for me, I can't recreate them after I've done them. It's one of those things that when I'm doing it in the moment, it happens. And I have to work with a photographer that can capture those moments really well. And so I started working with Ken and Deborah Ori a few years ago. We've done a number of photo shoots together, and I always feel that I get these like landmark moments from my career, and I can look back and reflect, and I have these moments now that are forever. Your dancing career that is on stage and then it's off again, and maybe they captured a video of it in time, but there's something about having a photograph that it just lasts past you. And that's just it's such a gift to have that, an emblem, and say, yeah, that was a time in my life that I'm very proud of.
I am originally from London. I was born in England. And I grew up in Miami, Florida, hence the accent is gone. And let's see, I've been here for 16 years now. And mostly I've danced for Graham that entire time, and a guest artist with Royal Ballet of Flanders. And I love dance. I love dance photography. I love it all. Definitely, I never worked with two photographers at the same time. So that was new for me. Like, I remember the first photo shoot I had with them, I was like, whoa, like, because their approach is different, and both are equally great. But yes, you know, Deborah has that dance background, so she's very clear in what she wants and what she's looking for. And Ken, he is just more like, let's just go with the flow, wildness, and he likes that energy. That's what I pick up from him. So that costume is very iconic to me. I mean, in general, I feel that Halston's collaboration with Martha was just, at a time, I feel like, at least to me, I look back at these archive videos and the company was just, it was booming. They were performing everywhere in the Met and Broadway, and everything was just of a certain caliber, and the glamour of it all. And that costume for me, I don't know, is like the pinnacle of it. She sets up the atmosphere on her stage where, you know, you have the sets and props and obviously the costumes, and it all just comes together to, at least for me, I always feel like I am this character and I'm in this atmosphere. And, you know, I kind of go back to a time when we were performing her full-length ballet, Clytemnestra. And there we were wearing Halston costumes, and you put it on and you see everybody in their Halston costumes as well. And it's just an energy and everybody is alive. And, you know, you want to feel, at least for me, when I put on a costume, that I am this character and I have become someone else. And honestly, that's how I feel whenever I put on a Halston costume or a Martha Graham costume, period. You know, it adds to the dance and your language of what you're speaking at that moment. So, you know, I love it.
I'm Russian born. I grew up in Germany. I was taught to dance actually by my mother. I didn't go to a vocational ballet school per se. I danced 2 years in Vienna and then 10 years in New York. And then after New York, 2 years ago, I moved back to Berlin. From an early age, I was fascinated by photography. I was photographing myself, and I'm still photographing just for fun and as a visual diary. I'm more of a visual person. I always thought about how dance could be photographed. And when Ken and Deborah wrote to me the first time, I checked out Ken and have seen his pictures. I was like, wow, this is actually exactly what I would love to combine dance with. And so it just happened to be that they wanted to do the same thing. As a dancer, you bring in a certain value system and a certain aesthetic. This is good and this is not good. And it's very, very much geared towards perfection. And Ken, being a photographer and actually a very great beauty photographer, understood that from his history of work. And Deborah herself was a dancer, so she understands what is a good line and what not.
I was born in France, and I started my career as a gymnast, as a professional gymnast for 10 years. And I trained to go to the Olympic Games. And after a very difficult injury, I decided to leave that world and convert to a dance career. And I went to Switzerland to the Browar school, where I trained for 2 years, and I learned ballet, modern, contemporary, Indian dance, African dance, acting, singing. And after that, I fell in love with the Graham technique, and I decided to come to New York and go to the school, train for 2 more years, and then I got hired by the Graham company. And I've been dancing for them for now almost 8 years. It's quite difficult to collaborate with a photographer that has no dance background. So it was very easy to work with both of them, with Ken's vision and Deborah's understanding of, dancing. Oh, it's wonderful. Every picture is so precise, so perfect, so beautiful. It's actually quite shocking to be like, oh, that is me. Like, I am capable of doing that. It's just, the collaboration is just wonderful. And then I just remember doing the same movement like 300 times because they knew exactly what they were looking for. And I didn't know what they were looking for. So to see that final product and be like, they were right to ask me to do that 300 times to achieve that perfection on the shot. It's perfect.